Behind that steel mask is a very handsome guy, okay? He's a good-looking guy, but there's one thing wrong with him. He's got a scratch on his chin, and he's frustrated. He knows he's extremely handsome. He's got the scratch on his chin, but you have... And he says, why haven't you got a scratch on your chin? And of course, he doesn't realize that his own anger and frustration is mounting. He's not a bad guy. As you saw in a Fantastic Four, he'd give the Fantastic Four a wonderful meal before he'd kill them.
That is probably somewhat of a travesty having me. Then he told the people, you can call me your majesty. Keep your battery charged, he know it won't stick, yo. And it's not his fault you kick slow. Should've let your chick hold your sick glow. Plus nobody couldn't do nothing once he let the brick go. And you know I know that's a bunch of snow. The beat is so butter. Peep the slow cutter as he utter the calm flow. Don't talk about my mom, yo. Sometimes he rhyme quick, sometimes he rhyme slow, or vice versa. Whip up a slice of nice verse pie, hit it on the first try, villain. The worst guy, spot hot tracks like spot a pair of fat asses. Shots of the scotch from out the square shot glasses. And he won't stop till he got the masses. And show them what they know now through flows of hot molasses. Do it like the robot to headspin to boogaloo. Took a few minutes to convince the average boogaboo. It's ugly, like look at you, it's a damn shame. Just remember all caps when you spell the man name.
Doom's mother was a Romani woman. She and her husband lived in peace, but that peace was always interrupted by the Baron of Latveria. Their people would be treated awfully just because they were Roma. The Baron and his troops saw them as nothing, merely seeing them as things to use for labor. And if they didn't do as they were told, the troops would just hunt after them, destroying their small tribe and hurting their people. Doom's father was a healer, a skill he had used to help his own people. But that would not help what would happen to Cynthia. Doom's mother, Cynthia von Doom, was skilled in the mystic arts, with her being called a witch. Now, the idea of Roma people being connected to magic and witchcraft does come from a very negative stereotype of Roma people. And obviously these comics are from a long time ago, and at the time they possibly didn't know that this was wrong. But I do believe comics today have been trying to show it in a more positive light. But I wanted to just mention this because I do think it's important for people to understand that. Cynthia von Doom had always had a hatred for the way the Baron treated her and her people. Her husband felt the same way, but he knew taking action could harm the tribe. Some of the people a part of the Roma tribe weren't sure of Cynthia, believing her meddling into magic could lead to great danger. The big reason for this was because the magic that Cynthia dealt with was dark. It was corrupt. She would have to dabble with dark entities such as demons to gain such abilities. This all leads to the fact that Cynthia von Doom one day did a spell. with her eventually being manipulated by a demon, her rage and anger for her people growing. Tired of their bigotry, she took revenge. She took the lives of multiple soldiers who worked for the Baron, who were people who threatened and treated her kind like they were nothing. But unknown to her, as she did take the lives of the soldiers, the demon she had worked with took the lives of the innocent children that lived in the town. Her anger has got the best of her. This was not what she wanted. She did not want to harm the innocent, and eventually the people of the Baron chased her down, calling her slurs and a witch, and eventually they killed her. Doom's father and himself were told to leave by the other Roma people. They saw his wife as a great danger who has now got them on the run, with one of the people even referring to her as a witch. This angered a young Victor von Doom. He remembered his memories of his mother and how her life was taken. And now the people that she knew talked about her as if she was nothing but a danger. Doom spoke, telling them to shut up. Even at a young age, his intelligence was still vast. His tone cold in anger, with him threatening the other trade people, saying if they banish him and his father, he'd just grow up to be like his mother. He'd wreak the same havoc onto them as his mother did to the Baron's people. They listened to the young Victor von Doom. Eventually, as the years moved on, Doom's thoughts of his mother passed away, slowly disappearing, but his hatred for the people that took her life still lay deep in his mind. He and his father would train with sticks, as a way to merely defend themselves. Victor at the time wanted to help a homeless Roma man, though Victor's father told him that they did not have the money or even the food to give him. He told him that the stuff they did have, they needed it to survive. Victor questioned his father, saying that he had always taught him to take care of the people of Latveria, to take care of their people as if they were family. Victor's father agreed with the statement, but he also told his son that to protect his people, to protect Latveria, that they needed power. Pennies would not help this man. Later, Victor found his father being attacked by anti-Roma bigots. They ran away, leaving Victor with a rage. He then saw the homeless man. All that anger then went towards that one man. A man who'd be able to do nothing in the situation, but Victor couldn't control himself. He needed someone to put his anger on. He blamed the man for doing nothing and began to attack him. Many days later, eventually Doom grew fond of a girl in his tribe, a girl named Valeria. Doom felt like Valeria was the one true person he could become close to. She brought him happiness and a life that gave him pain. But that pain began to return. The Baron's men found the tribe once more, but they were not here because of Cynthia's actions. The Baron's wife fell ill to a sickness. They came here for Victor von Doom's father, as he was a healer. If his father did not help the Baron, then their tribe once again would be attacked and destroyed. Doom didn't trust the men. How could he, after they took the life of his mother, after they treated his people like scum? But he listened to his father and let him leave with them. Later, at dark, Doom's father returned, but this time something bad had happened. He tried to help the Baron's wife, but there was nothing he could do. Her sickness was too great, and she died. Doom and his father rode on a horse into the woods, hoping to hide from the Baron's men, hoping for any kind of peace from the chaos of the Baron. For 4 days, Doom and his father hid. Freezing in the cold winter, they had barely anything to eat. They starved, but they knew if they both were found, their fates would be much worse. And one day Doom woke up to find his father's cold hands hugged around him. But Doom realized he would not wake up, and he could not free himself from his father's cold grasp. Doom could barely keep awake. He thought of his mother and her hands always being cold. He then thought of his father and the state that he was. Eventually Doom and his father were found by their tribe. Doom's father was not dead, but he was barely alive. He would try to speak, his words merely a whisper. Victor remembers his father telling him he had a destiny. Eventually Doom's father passed away, and the Baron's men took his corpse to the Baron. Doom's anger had grew. It was not a fiery rage. It was cold. Cold like his mother's hands, cold like death, and cold like the world. Victor's kindness, his humanity had slowly disappeared after the death of his mother and father. He was cold and focused. He knew the Baron must pay. Victor used his intelligence to create devices that could help him trick and mess with the Baron's people. He also started to look into his mother's magic. Doom, even though he was young, mastered science and magic at an extremely fast rate, something that very much made his ego grow. Doom basically became a leader to his tribe just by how powerful his inventions had become and how quick he was learning. The Baron's men feared him, and his name began to get spread around. But as Doom grew smarter and more colder, his relationship with Valeria disappeared. Every time he looked into her eyes, all he saw was sadness. Victor used his knowledge in domestic arts to try and contact his mother, knowing she was calling to him from somewhere, but every attempt failed, what left Doom just filled with more anger than he already had. Now Doom was never as ruthless as the Baron. He'd not kill the Baron's men. It was more like a game, a way to make them fear his kind and himself, a way to make sure that they'd never treat him or his people like the scum they thought they were. But that ended up changing one day. Doom was walking, trying to walk off the frustration of another failed attempt to contact his mother. He came across a soldier of the Baron. Victor was not prepared for such an encounter. He had no weapons on him. He was completely defenseless to one man with a gun. Doom was able to disarm the man. He grabbed his neck in anger, in rage. He stared into the man's eyes as he began to strangle him. Seeing his fear, his struggle, it felt like it took ages, but eventually the man died. Victor removed his shaking hands from the man's neck, questioning what he's done. Even the next day, Doom's hands still shook. Whenever he closed his eyes, the stare of a dead soldier looked into him. Victor eventually met a man from America. The American worked for the government, and they had heard of Doom's inventions. They offered for him to work for them, with him being able to go to the finest of schools to study and to have laboratories to work in. Doom agreed. He was still shook from the death he caused. He wanted somewhere to go where he could not think of the blood on his hands. So Doom left his Roma tribe and went to America. Doom's trip to America was not normal. He did not have papers, no student visa, but the government knew Victor had potential. Doom's life at school wasn't what he would consider pleasant. Victor's ego grew. After creating such a name for himself, with him seeing other people as stupid beneath him in comparison. I also believe Doom was so aggressive to his fellow students because he knew how people who were not Roma treated Roma people. He knew that a lot of them could see him the same way the Baron's men saw his mother and father. He knew he could not trust people easily. Victor eventually met a student with the name of Reed Richards. Reed was smart, extremely smart, with him even agreeing with some of Victor's theories. But Victor did not like Reed. He did not care for him. He didn't like the idea of seeing him as his equal. Eventually they became rivals to each other in the school, with Reed and his friend Ben even playing a prank on him, with them messing up one of his trophies to say Victor Von Doof. But overall it was Victor who was the one to push this idea of rivalry. He got angry at the idea of being compared to some American. Victor mostly stayed away from socializing, even though the people around him did find him intriguing, seeing him being European and Roma as exotic. While Victor worked on building robots and other machines for the American government, he also began to work on what he saw as his destiny. A device that would allow him to talk with the dead. A device that would allow him to communicate with his mother. Later on, as other students begin to party, a student begins to flirt with Victor, and for the first time in a while, Victor lets his guard down. They begin to kiss, but as Victor looks into her eyes, he sees nothing. Not like what he saw with Valeria. All Doom saw was nothing, and his rage began to grow. Realizing he let his guard down for nobody, Victor's hands wrapped around her neck tightly, and he began to strangle her. Victor felt nothing as he looked into her struggling eyes. He questioned what he was, what his life has been. He remembered his mother, his life in Latveria, and he let go of her neck. She ran away scared. Doom questioned what he would say, knowing the authorities would clearly question him. But there was no authorities. He never ever saw the gavel again at the school. But some of the students knew, with many of them being terrified of Victor. The incident at the end of junior year, her name was Sandy Bedwell, and she didn't quit school, she was forced out. Apparently, she tried to press charges against Victor, but someone tipped off his military connections. And between the school and the government, the whole thing was hushed up. Next thing you know, her folks are yanking her out of school, driving her home in a brand new Rolls Royce. One day, Victor walked back to his room to see Reed Richards looking through his notes. Specifically, his notes on his most recent work to develop a machine that'd let him contact his mother. Reed was shocked at the work. It was amazing, but there's things wrong with it, calculations being off, but Victor did not care to listen. He told him to leave, feeling the idea of needing Richard's help as an insult to his intelligence. Sure, I helped him. I told you I was scared to death of him. So I flipped the switch and the whole place blew to hell. Cost me my degree and an eye. As Doom's device activated, Victor began to phase in and out of reality, with him entering hell. Everything around him burning and changing in a second. He shouts for his mother, trying to find her. He finds her, and as her eyes notices Victor, Cynthia shouts in tears that her son should not be here. Suddenly a voice echoes out, cold and harsh. The face of a demon appears. Victor lies in a hospital bed, his face bandaged up, the lights off as he sits in the darkness, remembering the demon that has captured his mother. Victor had been expelled for his work. Victor could not sleep. Victor was told that the general didn't care and that it would not affect his work for military technology. But Victor could not care. His mind only could think of his failure to his mother, his failure to his tribe, his failure to his people. Doom eventually pulled apart his bandages to see a scar of a demon, a mark that shall never leave his face. Doom did not see this as just a simple scar. He saw that he was disfigured, that his face was hideous, that this small scar had made him into a monster, a scar left by a demon. Victor later on used his technology to escape his room. He did not care about working with their military. He only ever did this to improve his science and find a way to find his mother. Doom left America, but he could not go back to his homeland as some sort of failure to his people. Doom was plagued with nightmares of his mother burning in hell, the demon he saw torturing her endlessly. Later on, Victor found himself wandering the streets to eventually find Valeria. They both talked, Victor questioning how she even found him. Valeria talked about how the tribe has been going through hell. The Baron's growing more dangerous, with his men burning down their homes, trying to find Victor. For a while, Victor and Valeria would live peacefully together, with Victor even showing her his face. But like most things in Victor's life, peace would not last. Doom would attract the attention of the KBG, with them wanting him for his technology. Doom would not work for them, so they threatened Valeria's life. Doom had no weapons. He began to go away from violence after meeting Valeria again. He was seemingly trapped and had to help them, until suddenly, a mystical energy swarmed Valeria, protecting her in a bubble of magic. Clouds of lightning and fire form, taking out the agents. Gunfire is heard, and the person to do such magic was a simple, homeless man. He lied bleeding, shot, but Valeria was okay. She was protected. Doom went up to the dying man. He knew of him. He knew his name, but he saw him as nothing. The man, Otto mentions of a legend. A man who lost everything would learn of an ancient secrets and become a master. Doom questions Otto's ramblings until Otto muttered the words, "You can't deny destiny, Victor von Doom." Valeria was shocked in horror, while Otto told Doom to go to a temple high in the mountains of Tibet. Valeria tries to talk with Victor, but he only tells her that she must return to Latveria. He tells her that she would not understand, that he is different from her, different from everyone. As Doom knew, he had a destiny. Victor travelled to the mountains of Tibet, knowing he must follow his destiny. As he climbed the cold, freezing mountains, his mind wandered back to his father and him hiding. the freezing weather that took away his father, the Baron who took away his father. All of it just made him focus on his destiny more than ever. He knew he must follow it. He knew he was important. He knew all his life's pain would lead to something. He knew that his destiny would one day help him bring his mother back. It'd help him save his people from the oppression they faced. Doom knew he was more than just a mere man. Now, at some point in his travellings up those mountains, Doom wandered into a cave. In this cave was Genghis, an extremely old and powerful sorcerer. Now, this isn't what he was looking for when he was climbing the mountain, but Doom knew of the man. I'm guessing at least from his studies about magic and him asking around, though there is also a possible chance that this interaction did not happen, and the sorcerer Genghis is making it up. Doom apparently asked Genghis to teach him in the mystic arts, something Genghis did not accept as he was not looking for someone to teach. Doom grew furious from such a response, but Genghis did tell him of a temple, and that was his destiny. Now, personally, in my opinion, I think this interaction never really happened, and Genghis is just misremembering. He is like ancient, so it would make sense, and this interaction doesn't really work well with the Book of Doom's comics. Doom barely could sleep, and he slowly became exhausted from the climbing. He remembers his mother and her cries, and the demon that held her captive. Doom used his technology to fight off dangerous threats and to survive, but after being attacked by a creature, he fainted from exhaustion. He later woke up to find himself in a temple, surrounded by monks. Doom slowly began to learn more about magic and technology over days, weeks, and even years, with his mind wandering away from Latveria, as he was in awe of his newfound power. The monks worshipped Doom as their leader and master. They'd do Victor's bidding, building things for him if he asked of it. In the temple, he made a room filled with monitors and TV screens as a way to keep an eye on the world, and there he saw a familiar face. Reed Richards, on the news talking about a new technology involving a rocket ship. The news referred to him as the smartest man in the world, if not the universe. The words echoed in Victor's head, reminding him of his utter hate for Reed, his hate towards the Americans. He knew Reed must have been some spy for them. His anger grew and grew, seemingly not being able to stop. And on that day, Victor would demand that he'd be referred to as Dr. Doom. Doom's dreams had gotten worser. He could barely sleep, his mind only thinking of his past. The pain he felt from the world, the tears of his mother. Doom knew the nightmares had to stop, so he began to work. Doom, with the help of his followers, would begin to craft a second skin. An armor that would be filled with advanced technology, He'd be blessed so he would no longer feel the pain of his nightmares. Victor demanded to wear his mask, his new face, so that the world could never see the scar that was left upon the face of Dr. Doom. Now, it's stated that the metal faceplate injured Doom's face even more, with him putting it on too soon. So like I said, Doom's face before wasn't hurt badly. He only really had a small scar after healing, but that small scar was just a reminder of his failure, and to Doom it ruined him. Now, the idea of it being a small scar can change mattering later, as some people began to make the scar bigger and more noticeable. But the original intention was always that the scar on his face was quite small and not that noticeable, but was noticeable to Doom, and that what mattered to him. Doom would eventually travel back to Latveria. He would see what has happened to his country, to his people. Doom would find his people made into slaves by the Baron. His people and the people of Latveria were no longer safe. Slowly, Doom began to break free slaves. He would attack the Baron's soldiers, and they all began to fear the name Dr. Doom. People who were freed or heard the name of Doom began to spread his name around, with Doom talking about freeing people from the Baron. He began to grow followers. He began to grow an army. Doom would make his base an old abandoned castle near an abandoned town, the same town his mother attacked those many years ago. This castle would become his kingdom, and it would become where he would plan out his war. But Doom knew he must do something first, something important. At night, a small Romani tribe, the same Romani tribe that Victor von Doom used to be a part of. Dr. Doom would return to his home. The people of the tribe were frightened. This wasn't the same Victor they knew. He was different. Doom asked of his tribe to spread the word that Dr. Doom shall save Latveria. Most agreed, though one of the tribe members questioned Victor. This man would end up dead by the hands of Doom. Doom did not flinch, he did not react, he did not care. The other tribe members did as Doom told them to do. One day, Valeria, the Valeria who Doom cared for so deeply, visited him in his kingdom. She questioned him. She questioned if it was even Victor, if he was even the man she once knew. Doom told her to leave, saying that a war is no place for a woman. Valeria told him that she is not one of his subjects, at least not yet. She says she needed to see him, to see if it was actually the Victor she knew. She asked him if that suit of armor is what he left her for, and to that Doom replied with,
"The armor is merely a shell, and the man inside is not one you
Laria tried to reason with Doom. She tried to point out that he is just building a wall between himself and the world, but Doom would not listen. Eventually the day would arrive, the day the Baron fails. Even the Baron's men began to leave his side to join Doom's, to the point the Baron was just by himself. Doom's army marched towards the Baron's kingdom. The Baron tries to run, but there is no running away from Doom. Doom won, but he still knew his rival lived. The spy, the fool, the person who took away his face. Reed Richards.
Did you write the book of love, and do you have faith in God above? If the Bible tells you so. Do you believe in rock and roll? Can music save your mortal soul? And can you teach me how to dance real slow?
Above the Fantastic Four tower, a massive net is dropped onto the building, the net being electrically charged, and a voice echoes out from the helicopter.
Fantastic Four, heed my words. This is Dr. Doom.
Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, quickly recognized the voice. He couldn't believe it. He thought Victor was dead, but it was his voice. Reed explained to the other members of the Fantastic Four about Victor Von Doom and about his failed experiment. Doom says if they wish to stay alive, they have to do as he commands. He tells them to send up the Invisible Woman, aka Susan Storm, and he will keep her hostage. Reed, Ben and Johnny don't want to obey the command, but Susan agrees, knowing if they don't it means Doom might take their lives. Later, the Fantastic Four enter a capsule, as Doom demanded it. Doom takes the capsule with his helicopter to his kingdom. Doom demands that Reed, Ben and Johnny must go on a mission. The mission being that they must time travel back to the past to steal the treasure from the pirate Blackbeard. If they don't obey, Susan Storm will be harmed. Reed agrees, with him, Ben and Johnny being sent back in time. They quickly move, creating disguises for themselves. They look around trying to figure out where Blackbeard could possibly be, but at some point they are knocked out and put onto a pirate ship. Ben wakes up, along with Reed and Johnny, starting a full-on brawl with the pirates. Eventually the pirates give up, saying they'll do whatever they want. But their little brawl got the attention of another pirate ship that begins to attack them. The heroes use their abilities to quickly attack the other ship with the help of their newfound crew. Ben begins to slightly enjoy the life of a pirate. He wouldn't be treated awfully for how he looked, and said he was worshipped for looking the way he did. He was even seen as tough, and eventually the pirates began to call him Blackbeard because of his fake black beard he wore, making Reed quickly realize that Ben is Blackbeard, meaning the treasure technically belongs to them. Reed doesn't want to necessarily help Doom. He knows that if Doom wants the treasure, then it's probably not for a good reason. Reed jumps the treasure and instead puts some heavy chains inside the chest. After dealing with a twister and surviving a boat crash, the team's teleported back to the present. Reed hands the chest filled with metal chains in it to Doom. Doom was excited to finally get his hands on the gems, knowing they possessed mystical capabilities, but he opens the chest to find only chains, and Ben quickly slams his fist into Doom to find out that it is not Doom, it was a machine. A small screen appears showing the real Doom. He laughs, saying he is in the room above, and that the room they are in will slowly run out of oxygen, killing them. But Doom didn't think about the fourth member. Susan Storm, she was free and invisible. She short-circuits Doom's machine, blowing it up and freeing the other members of the Fantastic Four. They try to stop Victor, but he quickly flies off using a jetpack device. After this event, Doom would return multiple other times, becoming the main rival of the Fantastic Four, as Doom could never let go of his hatred and jealousy of Reed and his perfect life. He tried to use the help of the Submariner, though it would end up backfiring on him, as Namor would help the Fantastic Four. He had also switched bodies with Reed as a way to sneak his way into the Fantastic Four and destroy them. There's also that time he used shrinking technology and a bunch of other stuff. He also for a while had the taste of godhood in Secret Wars. Now, there's a lot of stuff I can talk about next. There's like a ton of Doom stuff involving the Fantastic Four, but I really want to talk about Doom needing to face the challenge that he's always knew he would have to face one day. That challenge being Mephisto. Suddenly, across the entire earth, a voice calls out to all sorcerers on the planet. The voice belongs to Genghis, an extremely old and powerful wizard. One of the many people who heard the echoing voice was Doom. Genghis told the sorcerers to all go to the Temple of Free. Another person who heard the call was Stephen Strange. The next day, multiple sorcerers gather, as they all heard the call of Genghis. Amongst the crowd of sorcerers is Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom. Genghis says the reason he has gathered them all is so that he could decide who is Sorcerer Supreme, and whoever gets close enough to gaining the title will be granted a boon. A boon basically meaning a favor, so they could ask for a favor and the Sorcerer Supreme must obey. Anyway, it ends with Doctor Strange being given the title of Sorcerer Supreme, and Doom being the one who can ask for a favor, even though he technically cheated. Vector used his suit's technology to keep up. He still is very much skilled in magic, but Doom will also use his technology, specifically if it benefits him, and this certainly does benefit him, as the favor is for Doctor Strange to help him free his mother's soul so it will be no longer trapped in hell with Mephisto. Stephen is took to Doom's castle. Doom and Stephen talk, with Doom talking about his mother, how she was killed when he was young. But Doom kept secretive on his Romani life, on his tribe, though Doctor Strange would later on learn about it from Boris, a Romani man who was in Doom's tribe. Now Boris has popped up a couple of times. He even appears in most of the stories I've talked about here. He sort of became Doctor Doom's Alfred in a way, but not exactly, as he does fear Doom. This all leads to Strange asking a question. Why did you never simply seek me out and ask for my help?
I will bear any ordeal, Strange, but Doctor Doom does not beg. Good night.
Now, just that moment, in my opinion, is perfect. It really shows what Victor's became after so many years of his family being treated horribly. Doom now has the chance to never be treated like that, but to Victor, asking for help is being seen as that, and he does not want to be seen as weak. He does not want to look like he needs help. Victor feels like if he does, then he goes back to that time as a Romani child being looked down on by the Baron. Doom and Strange train on their magic, as they both know going into hell will be extremely dangerous. Victor even upgrades his armor so he can surpass Strange in strength, clearly being slightly jealous of the sorcerer, and after the training, they enter hell. A voice echoes in hell. Hell, the always shifting ground, the burning heat. The voice belonged to Mephisto. He cackles, seeing Doom and Strange, knowing they are here for Cynthia. Doom and Strange face off against demons, hellish storms, and much more. The fight seems impossible, until Mephisto mentions an offer to Doom. The offer being, if Doom traps the Sorcerer Supreme in hell, then he shall let his mother's soul free into a new body so she can live again. Doom agrees, with him trapping Strange in a crystal prison. Cynthia's soul is freed into a new body, with Doom trying to take her away from hell, but she is confused. She doesn't know how she is free. She questions what Victor has done, and that's when Mephisto mentions their deal. Cynthia is heartbroken to see her child betray a hero, to become something so uncaring, and she can't be a part of it, with her moving away from Victor in shock. She was once again trapped in hell, but she found that better than becoming something evil. Suddenly the crystal prison breaks apart, with Stephen Strange looking down at his hand to find a device left by Doom. Doom was always going to eventually free Doctor Strange from his crystal prison. Mephisto laughs, with Doom and Strange using their skills to try and attack the evil demon. Suddenly, a blast of white light appears. Mephisto screams in agony from it, as it is the light of heaven, the light of purity, as Cynthia Von Doom's soul floats out of hell, as she has redeemed herself, as she did not willingly go with Doom. Doom and Strange are quickly pulled out of hell, as Mephisto tells them to be gone. Doom and Strange land on the solid ground of Earth. Doom stays silent while Stephen gets up and offers Doom a hand. Doom says he doesn't need help. Doom gets up by himself and tells Boris to show their guest the exit. Doom looks down upon his people from his castle, knowing his mother's soul is free from hell, but knowing he is not yet fully victorious. Now, like I said before in the last chapter, there's a lot of Doom stories I could talk about next. There's his entire history with the Fantastic Four, with Doom being the godfather of Reed Richards' daughter. There's his story with Valeria and what happened to her. There's multiple plans that Doom has had to destroy the Fantastic Four, but this video is already quite long, and I kinda know what most people are probably waiting for. So let's talk about the time Doctor Doom won. There was nothing, followed by everything, swirling, burning specks of creation that circled life, giving suns. God Doom created the light. This is the story everyone is told on Battleworld. The tale of how Doctor Doom created the world. The thing is, that's obviously a lie. I know what you're thinking. What happened? Well, to explain in a quick manner, 2 universes, the 616, the main Marvel universe, and the Ultimate Universe collided into each other, destroying both worlds. Meanwhile, Doctor Doom, Stephen Strange, and Molecule Man confronted the godlike beings known as the Beyonder. Doom steals the powers from these Beyonders, and with the help of Molecule Man, he builds a new world, known as Battleworld. This world is built up from the destroyed parts of the multiverse, and all that live in Battleworld do not remember their past. All they know is that Doom is God and ruler of Battleworld. Doom made it that he basically took up the role of Reed Richards. Susan Storm saw him as a husband. Her children saw him as a father. He had full control over the world, but it was still not perfect. Doom did it. He won. He became the ruler of the world. He could finally make the world he always dreamed of. But the thing is, he couldn't. The world was made out of broken pieces. Doom felt like he was still a broken man, and still kept up his cold tone. He was still aggressive. He still barely showed his true self. And he couldn't even fix his face. To himself, even after everything he did to get to this point, he could not help but see himself as a poor god. Meanwhile, two ships from the universes before are found with people from those worlds still alive in them. Victor is trying to control the situation, trying to make sure that the people of Battleworld do not learn about the real history of their world. Doctor Strange, someone who worked for Doom and knew of the past world, began to help the people on the ships, telling them what has happened to the world they once knew. Fours are sent to find the people. Fours in the battle world are basically police officers or guards that obey Doom's orders. One of the many fours allows Doom to see what's happening. Susan Storm and Valeria look alongside him, Valeria being the daughter of Sue Storm and Reed Richards. But now in this world, she only sees Victor as a father. But suddenly, Sue Storm's eyes light up. She points out a figure, saying he seems special for some reason. He seems different from the rest. Doom's eyes widen in anger, widen from the memories of his past. And Doom agrees as he stares looking at Reed Richards. Doom quickly teleports into the fight with the Force. His voice echoes out in rage as he screams for Richards. Reed confronts Doom. Reed applauds Victor on his achievement while also mocking the fact he clearly put himself on a throne. To that, Doom responds,
A throne. I've had a throne for quite some time. A throne was my birthright. I've placed myself a good bit higher than that.
This line I love is a little nod to the fact Doom has always saw it as his destiny to be a ruler, to be a controller, to help his people after they have faced so much pain, even though Doom's jealousy and ego overtakes that idea. Doom uses his godlike powers to attack the survivors of the old world. Doom is able to quickly take out Cyclops, but Strange uses a spell to split all the survivors apart, so they are nowhere near Doom. Doom demands that Strange tells him where they all are, but Strange does not say. He is tired of lying, he is tired of living in Doom's world. It's a broken world that is overlooked by a jealous god. Doom kills Strange. There is a funeral, with it being said that Strange died because of the criminals. Doom would barely talk about what happened, but he ordered Valeria and the Fours to hunt down the criminals. Valeria begins to question Doom. Like her actual father, Valeria is very smart, extremely smart, and knows that Doom is clearly hiding something from her. He isn't telling the truth. Doom enters a cave, with the cave slowly becoming an endless blank white void. The only other person in this seemingly endless void is Molecule Man. Molecule Man and him discuss Strange's death. Molecule Man complains about his hunger. He's devoured everything, he says. If he doesn't eat something soon, that he'll just be skin and bones. Doom does not seemingly care. Now, Molecule Man is a very powerful character who has appeared in quite a good amount of comics. But for this video I'm going to try and mostly focus on Doom. But the basics are that Molecule Man is the source of Doom's new godlike powers. They also originally met in the original Secret Wars. It's clear Doom is angered by Reed being alive. Reed is a reminder of his failure in the past, and slowly his world is beginning to unravel, with Strange now betraying him. Doom once again questions his possession as a god. Meanwhile, the heroes of the old world begin to plan their next attack. Susan, Valeria are desperate to know who are the people who killed Strange, but Doom does not want them to know. Even Doom's so-called followers want his downfall, with them wanting to rule Battleworld. The Spider-Men swing across the mashed up world, with them finding the entrance to the void. With them meeting Molecule Man, slightly shocked to even find anyone there, with Molecule Man asking one question: "Did you bring me something to eat?" Miles remembers he had a hamburger in his pocket. Yes, his suit seemingly has pockets, also it's a 3-week-old burger. Molecule Man doesn't seem to care. Peter mentions that they were sent to try and find the source of Doom's power, with Molecule Man telling them that he is his source of power. Quickly things begin to unravel. Doom's followers begin to make their own armies. Reed and the other heroes build up a plan. Black Panther gains an Infinity Gauntlet and a war rages on, multiple people dying and fighting, Doom's anger growing. The wall that protects Battleworld from the undead zombies breaks apart, revealing itself to be Ben Grimm, showing what Doom has done to him. With the 4th member of the Fantastic Four, Johnny Storm, being made into the Sun. This was mentioned before in the comic by Susan because she heard children singing a song about it. As battle and death rages on, eventually Reed meets Susan and Valeria, his wife and daughter, but they don't know it. With Susan blaming Reed for the death of Strange, believing Victor's lies. Reed explains that this isn't the life that they were meant to live. It's not the life they were supposed to have. Susan asks him, "Who are you really?" "My name is Reed Richards, and I'm the one who fixes things." Now going back to Doom. Doom fights Black Panther. Even with the Infinity Gauntlet, Black Panther's not strong enough. Doom punches him to the ground, calling him a fool, and that he's reduced him back to violence. T'Challa mocks Doom, saying, "Doesn't this feel off, like they are biding time?" That's when Doom understands. The war, the armies, it was all just a distraction. Doom quickly teleports near the entrance to the void. With him seeing Susan and Valeria, Susan asks him if it's true. To that, Doom tries to ignore her question, saying that if she trusts him as she's always has trusted him, but she quickly interrupts him. Like Stephen trusted you. Doom stays silent for a moment before saying one last thing.
I'm sorry, Susan. I tried.
The white void. Doom screams for Reed, for Richards, his enemy, his rival, from one man who he has always seen as the one who took his title, the one man who got everything he deserved. Reed doesn't have some master plan. His entire plan is to just convince Molecule Man that there's a better solution than Victor. Victor speaks, his voice harsh, his rage and ego, his jealousy, the way people treated him, the life he deserved, the life his family deserved. It all comes flooding back to Doom.
Your entire life you have been distracted with the modern concerns so precious to you and your kind. Ethics and order in society, when all that has ever mattered is survival. I have saved millions, Reed. Owen saved millions. And what was it you said when you appeared here on my level? All you could save was yourself. You couldn't even save your family.
How dare you?
Haven't you been paying attention, Reed? I dare quite a bit. I dare to choose between living and dying for millions. And now I'll choose for you as well.
But Doom's powers don't work. Both Victor and Reed never gave Molecule Man any food. He sees them as equals, so Doom shall not have his godlike powers. Reed stretches around Doom as they wrestle against each other, screaming in anger. Their rivalry has went on for so long, with Reed mocking Victor that things aren't so easy when you aren't a god. To that, Doom says,
Easy. You think any of this has been easy? You think powers makes impossible choices more palatable? I've always had power, Reed. Nothing has ever been easy.
Reed screams about Doom taking his life, stealing his family, erasing him from their lives. Victor tells Reed that they chose him. He didn't make them fall for him.
Can't you accept I've done good things here?
I'm not blind, Victor. I do accept it. But you could have done more. You closed your hands around everything that was left and you called it yours. You're so afraid of losing the things you've saved that you've held them too tight. Doom's mind goes to his past, to his people, to Latveria, to the people who he saved, to his mother, to his father, and how quickly he lost them. But Doom won't dwell on Reed's words. He can't. He is Doom. He has to be strong. He is the chosen one. He is Dr. Doom.
I understand now. I know what this is. It's the same thing. It's always been between you and I. You think you're better than I am.
Reed tries to reason with him, tell him that he has never seen it that way. He's always saw that Doom could do great things, and with his intelligence, he could help millions.
No, I mean now, this moment. If you could have this power, you think you could have solved it all, solved everything. You think you could have done so much better, don't you?
Yes, and we both know it, don't we?
Yes, damn you. Now die.
Doom hears as Molecule Man speaks, saying if you both agree, and Doom's world, the battle world, is gone. Doom's destiny, he knows it to be a failure. He knows he was not meant to be a god. A new universe is born, resembling 616, but with elements of the ultimate universe, such as Miles Morales. Reed, Susan, and their daughter and son watch with Molecule Man at the new site of a new multiverse. Meanwhile, Doom. He stands on his balcony in his kingdom, taking his mask off to feel that his scars are gone, that his face no longer has the burn marks or the scar of a demon on it. And to that, Doom laughs.
Doom was imminent.
Do the jet lag, good afternoon, or is that night? Militants speak proper, some airheads say they act white. Catch flight, bread good, so he tends to pack light.
Now, for Infamous Iron Man, I will not be going into as much detail as I have been for other comics in this video. There is one story I very much want to talk about because it very much is important to Victor's character. It's just with Infamous Iron Man, there's a lot of ties-ins to other comics such as Ironheart and other stuff. Infamous Iron Man takes place after the events of Secret Wars. It shows Doom as he questions what his purpose is in life. The Fantastic Four were gone, or at least Reed, Sue and their children were, with people believing them to be dead. Victor remembers bits of Secret Wars, though he knows something is missing. He knows he failed what he always thought was his destiny. So what does he do next? Victor didn't know who he was without the Fantastic Four. He didn't know where to go. Now, at this point in comics, Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, was basically in a coma, meaning there was no Iron Man. There was the character Ironheart, but she was also trying to do her own thing, not exactly replace Stark. But Victor saw opportunity in this. Victor took up the mantle of Iron Man. Now, this didn't exactly go well for him, as many villains saw Doom as weak because of this, and many heroes still didn't want to trust him. But one story I really want to focus on when it comes to Infamous Iron Man is a moment in Marvel 2-in-1 Annual 1. In this story, it focuses on Ben Grimm as he lies to Johnny Storm, saying that Reed, Sue, and the kids are alive, just in the multiverse somewhere. He did this as a way to hopefully get Johnny out of a depressive state he was in. He knew it was wrong, but he couldn't leave him in that state. Victor secretly follows them, with him and Ben getting teleported to a different universe. Victor calls Ben an idiot for lying to Johnny, and that this quest to find Reed is pointless. Though that's when Ben questions why Victor is even here then. Victor tells him that does not concern him, though it's clearly obvious that he is wanting to know if Reed is truly dead or alive. He needs answers. He knows there is something missing from his mind. In this universe, they encounter another Doom. A Doom who has killed the Fantastic Four. A Doom that has won. Quickly, Ben jumps into action, trying to fight this Doom. He gets pushed back, with Victor, the infamous Iron Man, then going in to attack him. The Doom realizes that the person he fights is another version of himself, even though he dons an outfit close to Iron Man's design. Victor questions this Doom. He asks him how it felt to win.
Doom feels nothing. There was momentary satisfaction, and yet...
Doom is then cut off by Victor, with him telling him that if he is Victor Von Doom, then you have completed every challenge besides one, the only challenge, the challenge to be human. The Doom of this universe slightly agrees, ditching his armor, showing his scars. He says that yes, the challenge of survival. He asks Victor, he asks the infamous Iron Man if he still remembers how to fight with a stick. They begin to fight, and Victor is beginning to lose. But as he does, he suddenly grabs a device from the corpse of Reed Richards. He activates the device. Victor opens his eyes to find himself in a blank void with white walls. He walks into a room to find a Reed Richards, but not just one, 3 Reed Richards. Reed explains that the device he used basically teleported him to this place, while also making a duplicate of himself, so once he's sent back, he will merge with that duplicate, basically meaning he never left. Victor doesn't care. His blood boils with anger. He wants answers. He knows there is something missing from his memories. He knows that there is something missing from Secret Wars. He knows that there is something that was took away from him, and it was not just the scar that was on his face. That's when Reed puts a device on Victor, and they both enter a memory. It's the end of Secret Wars. Reed is preparing to rebuild 616. Rebuild everything. He looks over to see Dr. Doom, tied up and rambling in anger. Doom tries to say that Reed is trying to humiliate him even more. Reed tries to make him understand that he's just trying to figure out what to do with him. Reed knows that Doom is dangerous, but he also knows there's a slight chance he could be better, be someone good, leave his hatred, his jealousy, his ego behind. Reed doesn't insult Victor. He doesn't get angry with him. He simply ponders. What would he be like if he didn't exist? Would the great Victor Von Doom finally learn to not focus on gaining power? Would he begin to try and focus on helping people? Would his ego go away? Would he be a better man? What do you say, Victor? A fresh start? The memory ends and Victor finds himself standing in the same room with the three Reeds. At first, Victor isn't fully trusting of it, but he eventually does realize it is the truth. I only wanted you to be a better man. You aren't just fighting for Ben's life right now, you're fighting your past. So let's watch. They both begin to watch a screen showing the fight between Victor and Doom. They both watch as infamous Iron Man, as Victor, as Doom, kills another version of himself. Reed tries to tell him that he didn't need to do that, but Victor says he does not have to explain himself. Eventually Victor is teleported back, merging with the clone, and to Ben it seems like he never even disappeared. Victor does not tell Ben about him meeting a version of Reed Richards. Now, in Infamous Iron Man, there's also stuff such as the reappearance of his mother, what leads to Victor questioning his place in the world even more, though he would later on find out that this was an illusion created by Mephisto, and eventually Doom's face once again would be burned. He later on went back to the title of Doctor Doom and began going after the Fantastic Four again. The main reason for his sudden change back to the way he was isn't fully said, besides him seeing his attempt at being something different as a failure. Though personally I think Victor killing the other version of himself with no real remorse was always the sign that he'd eventually go back to the way he was. Even the small group of Reeds even said that they don't know if a person like Victor Von Doom can change. He's experienced so much anger, hate, bigotry that he might not be able to. So their goal becomes to make sure no child lives the life that Victor did, that no child ever grows up seeing how cold and heartless the world can be. Now, at the moments in comics, Doom is back to his normal ways, with him now even being Sorcerer Supreme because of an event involving vampires. But yeah, that's Doom's life. I didn't let you go into every little detail, as there's still a bunch of other stuff, like the original Secret Wars, the time he fought the Guardians of the Galaxy, what ended up happening with Valeria. But yeah, that's really Doom's story as a character, the bigotry he faced as a child, and how that made him into who he is today. But there isn't really anything that big or recent. Look, I know you came to this video for Doom, and I'm still going to be talking about Doctor Doom here, but I'm also going to be talking about a bigger issue. And I really suggest staying for this part of the video. I would even suggest skipping everything else to just get to this part of the video, because this is something what not many people has brought up or talked about, and I think people really should be talking about this than ignoring it. I want to start off this section really by saying I do like the MCU. I'm not the biggest fan of it anymore, I think because I've gotten into the comics more, and I've noticed some more glaring issues with it, but I do have nostalgia for the films, and I do definitely still like some of the films. But the problem I'm talking about here is being overlooked too much by people. So, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, aka Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, two Romani characters, also Jewish, though that's debatable because of retcons, but both Romani characters who in the comics have dealt with hate and bigotry for being Roma, and for having powers, with even Quicksilver finding it difficult to trust people cause of this. Both of these characters, when introduced to the MCU, aka the Marvel Cinematic Universe, were both not played by Romani actors, and stuff in their origin mentioning them being Roma was removed. They also made the Roma characters, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, work for Hydra. Now, if you don't know who Hydra is, and somehow don't know what they are meant to be, then I suggest looking into it. But for those who have read comics and watched the films, it's pretty clear who Hydra is meant to be, because they are that. It's stated in the comics and films. And those people targeted Roma people, along with Jewish people, another thing the twins are possibly. And MCU decided to make those characters work for them. I don't think I have to explain how that comes off as wrong. They also seemingly removed anything that involved them being Jewish from the films. I also don't think I have to explain how that and connected with the other thing can come off as wrong. Now, at the time, many people didn't know who Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver were, and didn't mention it. Also, Roma people are still barely known by the public. Even today, it's pretty normalized to refer to them as slurs and anti-Roma words. I suggest checking out the YouTuber Florian. He talks a lot about it, and he is Roma himself. And from stuff I've watched on his TikTok and YouTube, he seems like a very nice person. Now, many people hoped that Marvel would hopefully eventually cast a Roma actor in the future, especially since Roma people are not represented greatly. But yeah, that didn't happen, as we now know who's playing Doctor Doom. Now, this film is not out, so who knows, maybe it's not Doom, or maybe it's Doom in Tony's body, even though that would be a terrible way to introduce Marvel's biggest villain. But the reason I don't think that is what they're going for is They refer to him as Victor Von Doom, and they've already erased another Romani character recently. So why would I think they wouldn't do it again? The character that was Roma, what appeared recently, was a character in the show Agatha. Now, I didn't watch Agatha because I knew about this. I didn't feel like watching a show knowing that they took a character and decided to erase their entire thing involving them being Roma. But this character barely appeared in comics, so it wouldn't have been difficult to find out that they are meant to be a Romani woman. But the MCU still decided to erase that aspect of her. But they did play into very much Roma stereotypes, and her entire outfits and designs are, from my knowledge, very stereotyped caricatures on Roma outfits. But people didn't notice, or people just didn't care. And that probably has to do with the fact the character is obscure, or the fact MCU fans just didn't look into the character. Now, if you sat through this entire video, then I hope you can understand why I think erasing Doom being Romani does not work. If you somehow don't, then let me spell it out for you. If Doom wasn't Romani, he would have never been Doom. If he wasn't Romani, he would have never seen his mother die, same with his father. If he wasn't Romani, he would have never got the scar on his face, and if he wasn't Romani, he wouldn't have never acted the way he did towards people. Now, I'm not Romani, but I don't have to be to see that this is wrong, and it's a clear pattern. This pattern also becomes slightly worse when tied into the fact that the MCU also doesn't really cast ethnically Jewish actors for ethnically Jewish characters, such as Moon Knight and Wiccan. But the MCU doesn't talk about this, nobody really does. Meanwhile, the movies continue to try and promote themselves as this extremely progressive company and franchise. Now, I've seen people's main defense for this is that there's not enough Roma actors. And to that I say, yeah, of course there isn't, because Roma characters and roles what should be played by Roma people are taken, meaning Roma actors of course won't be seen, but there's definitely a lot of Roma actors out there, and Marvel Studios is like rich. They're $1 million company. I'm sure they can get someone to look into Roma actors. Also, a Romani actor did actually ask about the role of Doom, with him even sending a note to Marvel Studios talking about the character's history about being a Romani man, and he never got anything back. Now, I can't say if that actor would actually do a good job, but I'd much rather that actor than an actor who's clearly picked for nostalgia, or cause a studio doesn't want to cast a certain group of people. Now, I'm sure I'll have people in the comments trying to defend this, either saying you can act Roma or Romani, or just not knowing anything about Roma people, so they say they're Romanian, even though that's a different thing. But yeah, in my opinion, this is still wrong, and it's still clearly happening. And as someone who likes the character of Doom and cares about this character, this is just going to be another bad adaptation, to a point I don't think we're ever going to actually get a good adaptation of the character. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this video is really long, so if you actually sat through and watched it all, thank you very much. If you want, you can like the video, you can even dislike it, or subscribe. This is something quite big, and I've been working on it for quite a while. So really, thank you. That's all, and goodbye.